Hey guys, my name's James and welcome to my shop. Today's video is going to be a little different than my normal videos because, as you can tell, my dirt bike's in pieces all over my shop. So in today's video, we're going to be going over how to pop dents out of exhaust tubes, but mainly expansion chambers. Now I'm going to show you how I built these two jigs that will clamp onto the tank, which will allow us to pressurize this tank and then pop these dents out using heat. So all we really need is these two jigs and a propane torch. So let's head on over to the bench and I'll show you how I made these. So this is the jig I've built. It's a pretty straightforward jig. All we're basically doing is capping off either end of the expansion chamber so we can pressurize it. So starting from the end that will meet up to the block of your motor, we're going to have this plate here. Now I'm using a little thinner gauge than I wish, but that's all I had on hand. This is 10 gauge, I believe. Quarter inch would be ideal. So what this is 4 inch by 4 inch square. I've drilled these out for quarter inch eye bolts. That's where our eye bolts will run through. In the center of that, we're going to want a stem that we can pressurize this tank with, so you can hook your air compressor up to that. Moving from there, we're going to need some rubber gasket. Now this is just a pond liner that I had on hand. You could use inner tube, the cut in half, or anything like that. That's just preventing air from leaking out. So that's that end. Now moving on to the clamps. What I have here is same thickness, but it's 4 inch by 1 inch. Now as you can see here, I've added some angle iron on. That's just to strengthen it, because when I tighten this together, I didn't want it to bend. So that's just purely for strength. These holes here are drilled out for 5/16. So we'll put those 5/16 bolts through. We'll put the eye bolts on. This will meet up with the other side of the clamp, kind of like so. Now the tube of the tank will go in between here, but I will show you in a minute, or you could fast forward, how it lines up. And this just goes through here, and that's basically how you have this end. Pretty straightforward jig. Again, I'm going to be building this in a second here. I'm just trying to give you an exploded view of how this all goes together. Now moving on to the other end that will meet up with your silencer. Same idea, only this end we just need a blank plate. We don't need to pressurize it at this end. So you could just basically duplicate this and you're off to the races. So let's throw this together, and then we might as well pressurize it and get some dents out. Alright, once we have everything bolted up and tightened down, we're going to want to pressurize it to about 15-20 psi to just make sure we hold pressure. So I've already gone ahead and done that, so we're just going to check to make sure we're Holding pressure. And we are. Let's add a little more. Ideally, we want to get up to about 60 psi. Or 25 there. Let's apply some heat. Let's see how this goes. So now you can use a MAP gas because it burns a little hotter than propane, but I'm going to be using acetylene because it's going to be a lot hotter and it will warm this up a lot quicker for the video. So that's what I'm going to be using here. So let's get started. We got about 35 psi in it right now. We're going to heat it up, and if that doesn't pop, we'll add more psi, about 50 when it's cherry red. So let's just see how it goes. Let's add a little more psi to this. Probably good for that one. Let's move on to the next one. So I'm probably around 40 psi. Okay. So when you're relieving the pressure, all you want to do is just crack it until you can hear it start coming out, and just leave it. If you undo it too fast, it might blow up on you. So let's just relieve the pressure slowly. There's no rush. And another thing I forgot to mention is that you're going to want to clean your tank out. Like, I had a lot of oil in this, so I cleaned it out with brake clean. Washed it out, let it dry. You don't want any, well, you want to limit the vapors in here because ideally you're heating this up, heating those oil vapors, and you're creating basically an explosive gas in there. So we don't want that, or we want to at least limit that. So that's one thing I forgot to mention earlier. And that's the process. Now that worked a lot better than I expected. Took all these dents out. Some of these were pretty bad. So this expansion chamber here is ready to go back on the bike. I'm actually going to take this one step further, and I'm going to heat up these areas again and then dip them in oil just to bring some strength back to this steel, because what we've actually done by heating it is taking the strength out of this steel. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. But you can throw it back on your bike, and you're off for the races. Now, if you have any questions regarding the process of this or building the jig itself, please leave a comment in the section below. I will answer that for you. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It lets me know I'm putting out some good content and you guys are enjoying this kind of stuff. So, as always, thanks for watching.